Well, hi everyone. My name is Michael Bailey, and I serve as Deputy Director of Leadership Programs here at the George W. Bush Institute. And I am so thrilled to be joined by two of our incredible alumni from the Stand To Veteran Leadership Program, Ryan Callahan and Mark Harper, both scholars from our class of 2022, or Hardcore 4, their fourth class of the program to come through. And I am thrilled to be with them today and to talk a little bit about both their experience through the Veteran Leadership Program, but a campaign of particular passion to the both of them that they are both working on and collaborating on, and that's the Combat the Silence campaign through the Blue Star Families organization. So we've got a really interesting conversation today, really talking about something that is near and dear to so many, and that's just the alarming rates of suicide within the military community and how we can really support the efforts to lower those rates and really provide this community of support. And so it's going to be an awesome conversation. Ryan Callahan serves as Executive Vice President of Digital Marketing and Innovation for Blue Star Families. And Mark Harper is the founder and Chief Executive Officer of a company called Gigline Media, which is a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. And so we've got a really awesome conversation today. And Ryan and Mark, thanks so much for joining us. Why don't you just both kind of start out and talk a little bit about your connection to service in this community and how you got into doing the work that you're doing today. Ryan, we can start with you.
Sure. Yeah. First off, thanks for having us, Michael. So I came into the space as a civilian. I'm the grandson of two World War II Army veterans and the son of a United States Marine Corps Vietnam era veteran. But I chose a different path, and this is kind of this work is my way of serving the military connected community, is giving back and being able to provide resources and information to the veteran and active duty community.
And thanks, Michael, again for having us as well. I'm an Air Force veteran, and I've been spending the past 10 years working on storytelling in the military community. And during my time in the Air Force, I had the opportunity to lead a lot of troops, and unfortunately, two of my troops at one point in their career there died by suicide. And this topic has just compounded in terms of my focus in my professional life. And it was this was an interesting confluence of opportunities that came together when Ryan and I were speaking one day in one of our cohort meetings. So this all of our backgrounds, I think, have like intersected for an opportunity like this to happen.
Well, let's dive right in and talk a little bit about the Combat the Silence campaign. And Ryan, I'll maybe start with you, given your role with Blue Star Families. So this is an initiative through the Blue Star Families organization. Maybe just talk about why this was important to you all as an organization, and then we can start talking about some of the goals and initiatives through the Combat the Silence campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first off, thank you to the Department of Veterans Affairs. The Combat the Silence campaign would not be possible without their support. And that's really where this kind of started at Blue Star Families. We were a proud recipient of the Staff Sergeant Parker Gordon Fox Suicide Prevention Grant. And through that grant, we came up with this Combat the Silence campaign. And really, the goal of Combat the Silence is to reduce the stigma around mental health. No one should kind of suffer, alone, and you have a support system that's around you. So at Blue Star Families, we were uniquely qualified to really help this major issue in supporting in having loved ones step up and support. So we started a program called Blue Star Support Circles that actually trains military families on what to look out for in their loved ones. What are the stressors? What what to do. How do you then go and intervene when you're noticing a loved one, is experiencing PTS or, any other mental health stressors. So that's, kind of where this started in, when we were, looking for, who could produce our public service announcements around the Combat the Silence campaign. I knew to look to Mark, because Mark is, a former combat cameraman, so really understands, as he said, this mission is personal to him, but also, really understands the storytelling aspect behind it.
Wonderful. Well, what can you talk a little bit about the support circles, how folks can get involved in those? Are they nationwide or kind of locally focused right now? What does that look like?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, they're nationwide, and we do support those family members who are ACONUS too. I should mention it's family members and friends, because it's not just the family members who are in a support circle. So the best way to sign up is going to combatthesilence.org. And you can sign up to be in one of our cohorts. I believe we've already held like 45-ish cohorts. And once you sign up, you're put in a cohort with 10 to 12 other family members and friends, and you go through this training that basically tells you what to look out for, how to intervene when your loved one's experiencing stressors.
Wonderful. This is a really amazing and important initiative. And you gave a nod to the public service announcements that you have collaborated with Mark here. And so maybe if we can just talk a little bit about those. I love the kind of dual effort here of convening folks through the support circles that you all are providing and kind of providing that cohort aspect, but then also the awareness campaigns that are coming through these public service announcements. And so Mark, as you said earlier, this is really personal to you. And so what did the opportunity to kind of put these stories and bring them to life mean to you personally and in this initiative?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And Ryan, thanks for backing me up on some of my bona fides there back from my military career. It actually started, as Ryan mentioned, with combat camera. So I was surrounded by incredible storytellers in the military community. We were documenting everything the Department of Defense was doing. And it was interesting to be telling these stories from within the military community to the rest of the world. And one of these people in particular, his name is Jimmy Harper, and his his bracelet is what I wear. Reminds me every day of the importance of not only just the storytelling, but how sometimes it ends, unfortunately, in the community. And I was sharing my story with Ryan, and this actually happened in the middle of our cohort when Jimmy died by suicide, and Ryan could tell that I was very very much affected by it. But he also knew that I'd been working quite a bit in the PSA space. I mean, more specifically for the Veterans Health Administration, and that good storytelling can happen really anywhere, even surrounding very challenging topics like this. And so when we had the ability to get together, it was assembling this team of people, all the way up to how Ryan and I were finding people, of the director who worked on the piece, and the way we were finding and casting actors and writing the story, all of it done with a lens through the military community experience. And really just an amazing opportunity to tell this story and kind of put a public face on the things that Ryan and his team were doing behind the scenes. And I think a unique component of this is we were able to shoot 3 PSAs that we then aired in different parts of the country, reaching different demographic components. So it was kind of tailored. The messaging was tailored to the audience in very specific ways and targeting. And I think that helped some of the efficacy of what the campaign was intending to do, because this this challenge that we have, this epidemic, has all different shapes and sizes to it. And the approach needs to be multifaceted like this. And so we're able to shoot these 3 PSAs, deliver them, share them around the country, and then as a whole, really start to drive people towards Blue Star's Combat the Silence program.
You both are so involved in this every day through your work, and I wonder, particularly for those who may not be as connected to the military community, what do you hope that people come away with through campaigns like this in terms of how they can really support the challenge and support this community, regardless of your connection to it?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, if I may jump in real quick, because I'm actively working on another project for the Office of Suicide Prevention right now for the VA as well, and for the Defense Suicide Prevention Office, DISPO at the DoD. So kind of my everyday is kind of living in this world right now. And I think the most important component to this is how much of a spotlight is being shown now collectively. We're seeing a lot of increased dialogue around this. And that's like kind of the critical first step. And every year that I spend more time in the military community, kind of publishing space or storytelling space, I'm watching more and more organizations come together to talk about this. So you see organizations like Face the Fight that the USA stood up, which is a coalition of nonprofits, um, in many ways led by a VLP or Babs Chase, and then some of the great nonprofits like Overwatch Project, spearheaded by another VLP or Casey Woods. And I'll stop there, but there are so many other people that are inside the VLP world that are actively working on this in their own approach and way. And it's about seeing this diverse set of experiences and research go into how to approach this from many different angles. And there's still so much to be done, but all of this is about, I think, fostering this notion of that no member of this community needs to feel isolated or without hope. And then a lot of people are really paying attention to this right now.
Exactly. Yeah, it's okay to not be okay, and we're already kind of seeing a stigma shift, especially through Blue Star Families, our military family lifestyle survey last year. We saw roughly 1/3 of our veteran respondents reported that they're currently receiving mental health care. So that's a huge step forward in where we were at, 15 years ago. And that's how long we've been running the Military Family Lifestyle Survey. So that's good to see. And 11% of our respondents who said that they're not currently receiving mental health care, but they would be interested in, and they would like to explore more options. So, progress, but it's still plenty of work to be done.
You mentioned reducing the stigma here, and I want to kind of transition us a little bit to talk about the Stand To Veteran Leadership Program here at the Bush Institute, and highlight we've had 243 amazing folks from across the country come through this program who are doing just remarkable work for the veteran and military family community. And that impact really can range the whole gamut in terms of scope and scale of the work that is being done. But on topics like combating veteran suicide, like this initiative here, and Mark, you mentioned several other alums who are doing similar work in different veins to kind of approach this. And I think the multi-touch point of our alumni doing this work across the country is really remarkable and inspirational. So I do just want to talk a little bit about your experience in the program. As I mentioned earlier, you came through the cohort 4 in 2022, and so would just love some of your perspective on the biggest takeaways from the program experience. And then in a minute, I want to get to just kind of some of the collaborative opportunities that come through the alumni network.
Sure, that's great. So, as I think about this question, often because I find myself an ambassador sometimes to people that are interested in the program. It's while Ryan and I did know each other walking into this, we didn't know each other um, in quite the way that we would have left the program, and continue to still speak to each other almost on a daily basis at this point. And so it wasn't just about the incredible networking that it just provides. That number that you just threw out there was 243.
243.
I
Yep.
mean, just amazing that that this is like an instant network, and we forged very deep connections inside of all the military community. I lived a very, I'll just call it bad word for it, but like kind of an isolated component of my world in the military community. But witnessing the diverse projects, initiatives of fellow scholars, like really broadened my perspective immensely on everything that was happening. Our own projects that we bring in, they're really pressure tested by everyone who we go through the cohort with. And that value that we get, and this happens in the lessons that we get taught there as well, is about understanding, diverse approaches to very complex issues out there. And that impacts our work, by showcasing multiple angles of collaboration and how to work more efficiently through impactful solutions. So, the bottom line for me is that this network, and every year it gets stronger because we do these reunions and we get to meet people from new cohorts, um, really helps draw lines to different parts of this community in ways that none of us could really do on our own in any very deliberate way.
Yeah, and one of my favorite aspects of the program is just the people, right? You go in, relative strangers, and you come away with 50 new best friends, and now as we're having the alumni reunions, those group of friends is growing, and it's all growing kind of around the same values. Everyone you come across, shares compassion, like a deep compassion of the community, and they're solution oriented, and they want to make a change, and the collaboration that happens just on this, like, look at this for an example. Like, my personal leadership project was around mental health and suicide prevention, but I didn't know that down the road I would be approaching it from a different angle, in that Mark and I would be collaborating on PSAs. Mark and I kind of started as competitors in the space too, and but that didn't deter us from collaborating. We kind of started sharing each other's content, and bouncing different ideas off of each other, and I think that made us stronger. Together, and we realized that we together, that we lift each other up, make each other more creative, but also we had those vulnerable moments where as Mark mentioned, we had he had a tough situation happen as we're going through VLP. So we had a lot of laughs together, but we also had some cries together too, and that's okay, right?
I think it's safe to say we're definitely all a VLP family. So I love your perspectives and sharing that. And this is just the work you both are doing through the Combat the Silence campaign is just one of the amazing examples of collaboration in this community. And I do want to give nod to you all have been recognized for your work in a very amazing way recently. And so I won't steal your thunder, but Ryan, maybe if you can just talk about the recent award you all have received for this work.
Yeah, so this is my first. We recently won an Emmy through the National Academy's Mid South region down in Nashville. So pretty cool to throw Emmy onto the old profile, and but honestly couldn't have done this. It takes such a large team to make this happen internally at Blue Star Families. Vicki Perkins, who leads our national programming around Combat the Silence and Blue Star support circles. Definitely want to shout her out. And Robert Ham, the director, that Mark brought on board. Former three-time combat cameraman of the year, DoD combat cameraman of the year. So we had an all-star cast behind us, which is important because this raises the profile of this important initiative.
Yeah, I'll just add on top of that that obviously it's a very high profile award, but it's not just an award. It's a validation that impactful and noteworthy public service announcements can be created even on the most challenging topics, right? And I think that's really what I love about it the most, is that the storytelling that we use is a powerful tool to generate awareness, provide direction to resources back to Blue Star Families initiatives, and all for the purpose of ultimately saving lives in our community. And it reinforces our commitment to the skills to serve our brothers and sisters in arms, like Brian just mentioned, Army veteran behind the camera, um, some in front of the camera, using those shared experiences and real world lived experiences really help bring the authenticity of this campaign together and allows us all to help continue to combat the silence.
We talked a little bit earlier just about kind of reaching broader audiences on this topic, and I think an award like this definitely gives recognition that your work is getting out there and is recognized and is doing amazing things. So just huge congrats to you both. I love seeing it, and I'm so excited for you two, and absolutely deserve recognition here. But just any other thoughts on what when you get an award like this? What does it mean to you and this work? Um, yeah, how when you reflect on that at the end of the day, what does this mean to you?
Yeah, it means so much, to be able to kind of raise the platform to new audiences, and there's it's so important to branch out and let the rest of America know that this is still an issue that our military connected community is facing, and I think Mark and I too are we were also kind of looking to the next thing too. We have new ideas on how to, crispen new messaging and storytelling to keep the campaign alive and going.
Yeah, and I'll just I think steal from my previous answer that yeah, these are just kind of validation points of taking a very specific tool that we have and being able to deliver impact. So it means the world to me. It means everything that I've spent, I guess, the last 20 years working on is kind of coming into a culmination of opportunities right now to really deliver some impact back in the community that that we all love so much. And so look for future Harper Callahan collaborations. This is the first of many, and we're excited about it. There's some things in the very near term as well that we're working on that sit inside of this. But really just happy to be in this orbit with this project, and happy to continue devoting resources to it.
Amazing. Well, I just have one more question from my end, and I think looking back on this conversation, there's a lot of work being done and a lot of amazing work being done. Um, but I suspect there's still more to do and more work to be done. And so when you think about if you were talking to influencers or policymakers, what do you hope people come away with in understanding this work and what still needs to be done moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's a reason for the Staff Sergeant Fox suicide prevention grant, and the Department of Veterans Affairs decided to look outside of the VA to the community, VSO, MSO space. So that would be my call to action to policymakers, is that like there's no one thing that's going to solve this multifaceted problem, and that we need to collaborate. We need best in industry across multiple sectors to solve this very complex issue. So hats off to the VA to realizing that they need to look to VSO MSO space to further the impact on this critical issue.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, add a level or layer to that, we're in an interesting time frame um, where obviously budgets are being scrutinized across the board. And I think that this is one of those areas here where um, it's such a complex issue. The Office of Suicide Prevention's budget is around $571 million, with a significant portion of that going to projects like what Blue Star Families did through the Sergeant Fox grants. And that team can't do it all alone. There's so much to be done. There's so many different approaches, so much research and validation that needs to occur. And this is the one area that I would say um, we need to continue devoting, if not increase resources on. And that's my concern as we're moving forward right now, is that projects and programs like this will be the ones that are extremely scrutinized, and the ROI in them are very hard to discern. But we're making great strides. If you look at the national suicide rate has gone up, and inside the VA, specifically those who end up inside programs like this, is actually on the downward trend. So across the whole, these things are helping. And my concern is that these would be the first to go, potentially, if looking at such a large budget. So that would be my plea to lawmakers, et cetera, is to please keep funding amazing opportunities like this for diversity of thought, impact, and flexing other networks. And by that I mean Ryan's reach with Blue Star Families is its own world and ecosystem of family support and friends that don't necessarily come from the direct reach of the VA or the VHA's reach inside the military community. And so we need all these Venn diagram overlaps to really put a dent in this.
These are great calls to action. And this has just been a really insightful and wonderful conversation. And I thank you both, Ryan and Mark, so much for joining me and sharing more about this work. I think one point that has stood out to me that we've talked about throughout the conversation is, we can have an impact when we work, but that impact is maximized when we work together. And so you both are an exemplary example of that, and the collaboration that you've done through this Combat the Silence campaign. And so just kudos to you both, and congratulations on the recognition you've received. Thank you both for all of you for all that you do. And we're just so proud to have you two as part of our really strong Stand To Veteran Leadership Program network here at the Bush Center. So thank you again.
Thank you,
Thanks, Michael.
and thank you to the Bush Institute for this platform.
Yes.